Yo,
Hello, Jack.
what's up?
Not too much, bro. I think Mark's in here, Blake's in here. Um, what's going on, Blake?
How you doing, y'all? Good to see you.
Hey Blake,
Hello, hello.
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a hectic week, hectic month last month, but back to work now.
Yeah, congrats for sure, bro. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Guys, nice to see you.
Hey, Mark.
Good to see you, Mark.
Hey
Married
Mark.
man. Hi, Yannick.
Hey, what's going on, Mark? Guys, let's see. Cam has dropped us off in here. I think he's in another meeting. I don't know if you guys saw his email last night,
Yep.
but yep, he is in another meeting. Wanted to make sure that we could still do this, and is going to catch the recording later. So, do we know if anybody else is coming?
I think Julio and Rafe are doing something in Greece or Italy or something right now. Um, so they are not going to be present. I'm not too sure about Akshay. I haven't heard anything.
Sweet, sweet. Yeah. Yeah, isn't Rafe going with Vervaeke to he's questing with Vervaeke?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he already finished filming, he said, and is in Italy with Giulio and some guys.
Yeah, it must line up well because uh we're in nature connection, I think, and they Julia said he invited Rafe to it. And I journey in Europe, right?
Giulio just wrote that he'll try to join soon.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good. Yeah, no, I was like, I hit Rafe on Slack and I was like, have fun with John, tell him I love him. Kind of kidding, not really. I'm pretty much steeped in his work and that man's thinking. Holy cow. That in combination with
Um
involvement play and stuff, man,
hmm It's
it is
amazing.
it's potent. It's potent work, gentlemen. Potent, very, very yes, very uh just helpful. Yeah, I don't know what else to say really. I could say more, but I won't. I'll derail us. Okay, so we should we wait for Julio or we can just have him jump in when he gets here?
I
I
think
think so.
Yeah, I think have the second one. But quick question though, Nick. Do you mostly follow Vervaeke's work via his like your reading or podcast or what's your favorite form of taking in his content?
Good question. Why is my book not ready at hand? It's that Awakening from the Meaning Crisis book. I originally like watched a lot of the lecture series on YouTube. He's got 50 free lectures that like okay, just very brief description. When I got really into reading, maybe directly after college, ironically. And I would always ask, like, how do I know which book to read, though? There's so many good, like perspectives, and I would kind of do the same thing with philosophy. Well, how do I know who's right? All that. Um, and I think what Vervaeke's done well is he's given one of these, like, he has a lifetime of work of chronologically going through which philosophies came from where, what are the major camps, how we are unconsciously influenced by a lot of past thinkers that we're not aware of. And he kind of maps that very nicely and clearly so that you have a better place to stand when you're making decisions going forward. And that was just maybe not everybody cares about that. I don't think everybody has to do that, but was just like in all seriousness, existentially, it was something I needed help with. I needed someone to help me orient in that way. So he's done that and he's doing work that like makes it less painful between religions, between families of different beliefs. that deals with directly with modern problems in religion. And yeah, he is the guy for that, bro. One day, like Rafe people look at Rafe for embodiment related things and him as an innovator. They'll look at Vervaeke as a seminal figure in the world of modern philosophy, like people look at Hegel or Nietzsche, or I really believe that. So I don't know. The guy's quite a thinker.
Yeah.
But where I don't know what would be the most practical. So the thing I've written about the most is like, how do you learn who you are and what you're supposed to do? And that's the opening of the Meaning Crisis book, is those two questions. It was a personal existential quest for Viveki, and I just connected with that immediately. And he has a lot of practical answers for how to do that. That actually gave me traction in my life, not just like speculatively or like I like the ideas, but like financially, relationally. Um, and I think that's a good actually segue into what we're going to talk about with Chandler today. Do you guys know generally like what the goal is today? Should I outline that a little bit?
Yes, if you could, please. I saw your email, but yeah, if you
Yeah.
want to.
Just a review of those 8 courses that we did with Chandler's work. And you know, I'm not just doing that to fill time, even though I'm happy to show and tell anytime. That is one of my favorite things to do. But in the same way, Chandler discovered a lot of underlying principles um, of business, of specifically how an entrepreneur relates to their work and how you become a valuable person. He discovered several valuable underlying principles to help people identify that and move closer towards that. And I really think what Chandler's tagline is healing generational trauma. I asked him actually last week. It's healing generational trauma and building generational wealth. And if you just think about that tagline for a second, I don't think he even has it officially on his website or anything, but that's what he says he does. What he's trying to do is make you into a transformed, valuable person. Like I've heard him say before that if you're not okay, your business will not be okay, right? Nothing in your life will be okay if you're pushing problem. Like it might work for a minute. You might be able to uh, kind of shortcut and manipulate and I guess what's the word for who was the prince? Who was the prince that was like famously strategic and narcissistic? What is his name? You guys know who I'm talking about? Machiavelli.
Machiavelli?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that is a real strategy, but it's kind of a game that maybe eats itself a little bit or that catches up to you, you know? Um, so Chandler's approach to business also really reminds me of ecological dynamics. What Rafe loves to talk about for skill acquisition. The same thing that would help you develop the best skills in a jujitsu gym or on the rings, Blake, or if it's free movement, Yannick. Setting up the appropriate constraints instead of just learning like a bunch of random tips. Setting up constraints based on like the foundational things and really going ground up. Like, so I've been thinking about how to present that because there's a lot flying around there. And that was where the attachments came from of the 8 stages of the client journey, which you guys have both heard, you guys have all heard Chandler talk about. And then in that final document, it's like a 13-page document. That's like a longer form thing. If you guys wanted to read through that, where I just shared my notes from each of those 8 sessions and attached a video link. So if you guys wanted to go back and watch them, I don't think all those video links were in one place. They were like sent in random emails. It took me a while to like collect them. I wanted to do that anyway. I wanted to listen back to it because like in my experience, learning about business is like a martial art. Okay. It's not something you go in one time for a tip or trick and then like I can grab his wrist this way and now I'm, I'm totally safe, it's something that you have to learn the language of and learn the underlying principles, and you have to study your fundamentals. You got to go in and do a lot of layups. You got to go in and get shots at the foul line. You can't just show up once or twice here or there. It works in an actual context with opponents and with new situations, and you got to keep coming back to those principles and those basics. So let me say this, guys. I have a little intro thing written in that document. Do you want me to drop them in the chat? Would that be helpful? Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. I would share the screen, but unfortunately, Cam is the host, and I did not plan that with any foresight. We're just hopping on and making it happen, guys. Okay, here's the 4 questions and the 4 noble questions and the 8-stage client journey. Okay, so disregard that just for a minute. We'll come to that. But here is the document that I'm about to talk about. That has all our links. The PDF I just dropped has all the links to the 8 videos and my notes with each one of those 8 videos that might be helpful as summaries of what you'll learn in each one. Okay. But let me just do a little let me just add a little bit more descriptive language to what I think Chandler helps us do and see how it lands with you guys. Okay, please interrupt at any time. I'd rather this be more of a discussion anyway. But something I asked my jiu-jitsu class in the morning is, guys, how tall is a pyramid mathematically? Do you guys know? It's only as tall as what?
The base.
The fundament, I think. Maybe
What's
like
that?
the fundament, the bottom.
Foundation.
Right,
Yeah.
both y'all. It's only as tall as its foundation, as tall as its base. That's mathematically too. The higher it goes up, the bigger the base you have to support it. And so I'll share a quick personal anecdote. You can actually get too many clients too fast. You can get too much success too fast. It happens to people maybe more than you'd think. I wasn't aware this could happen until actually with a business completely unrelated to movement. It was for graphics that I was doing for different schools around Ohio and around the nation with this company called Herf Jones. And it was basically like there was an unlimited amount of work from these high schools. They wanted all kinds of different merchandise. All I had to do was figure out how to get the work done. And I didn't have enough of an understanding of how exactly those amount of each new client is a problem to solve. It's a some sort of promise to fulfill. If you give me money, I'll give you this, right? Well, it turns out if you're not prepared to solve those problems and people give you money, the problems continue to escalate and they can spiral out of control. And a bunch of money can run through your bank account and you can still be broke. I know it that doesn't make I didn't think that made sense to me at first, but really just the problems start to outweigh what you can actually do. So how tall is a pyramid? That's just to say, how tall is a pyramid? It's as tall as its base. Chandler helps us build the base personally, emotionally, and also in business. Because remember, if we're not okay, business ain't going to be okay. I think Julio is popping in.
Yeah, but his connection sounds pretty bad.
It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough, guys. We'll work with what we got here. Okay. So what else can I say here? I'd say what I've learned from Chandler that's given me the most bang for my buck, and we're gonna go into those 4 questions, the 4 noble questions that I attached in the comments that were like I wanted to give you guys something we could come back to and do like that's very immediately applicable. Okay. Because at the end of the day, if we don't know what we're supposed to do after this call, then I can give you a bunch of information and it'll sound cool. And maybe it'll just take longer to apply. But I'd love to give you guys something super applicable and tell you what I did that helped me from Chandler. Okay. So before we do that, I just want to say this. What I didn't realize is that you can actually set up your business in your life. Now, this is a radical thought, but this is literally where I was. Okay. You can actually work less hard and be more effective. This idea of not reinventing the wheel. I was reinventing the wheel every single day. I loved it. It was like part of my thing. Okay. And when the Buddha says life is suffering, he actually is saying the words dukkha. This is from Vervaeke, him and Chandler's work over at LAT. He was actually, when he said life is suffering, he used the word dukkha, and that actually means life is a broken wheel. So if a wheel's broken, guys, it destroys itself the more it rolls, like your shoulder if it's out of socket, right? But if you put the right pieces of the wheel together, it'll carry, and you do multiple of those, it'll carry really heavy loads over a long distance and it'll be sound. But you got to put the right pieces together, and it's got to be like balanced and all that, right? This is a metaphor for life, obviously. I had no wheel. I was carrying everything myself. Therefore, when the ceiling rose and all the possibility rose, my foundation wasn't built, it crumbled. Okay. I'm happy to be in a much better place now as a result of these concepts in Chandler's work. So we're going to work off that principle. We're going to work off the principle that there's actually systems we can put in place that allow us to work less hard and do better. And maybe you guys already have some of those things. I'm sure you do. But like the more I was thinking like that, the more the better my life got. That's all that it really was. The better I personally got and the better my business got. And that's what Chandler's all about. So any questions about all that, guys, about this underlying principle of working less hard to do better? Is that resonating with you guys? Can I get some feedback here? Yeah.
Definitely resonating. Yeah, work harder, work smarter, not harder. Yeah.
Correct. Julio, can you hear what we're saying?
I can. I'm just sending love and like all your words, so beautiful. I just dropped in and I'm so happy to be here.
Cool.
I've just been with Dave, and so now dropping in here is like magic. Thanks so much. Great.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Hell yeah. It's good to see you, bro. You guys are having an enormous amount of fun, I'm sure. Soak it up. Mark, what about you? Mark and Yannick, anything that comes to mind for you on this idea of putting the right systems in place, working less hard, achieving more? What do you think?
That's what we're here for, right? That's why it's so good that you're repeating these principles.
Cool.
But yeah, I think you can, like you say, putting the right systems in place. I think there's a lot of room for thinking through what to offer, what types of services you could offer, so that in the end you making more money with less time, like that you have to put in yourself. Like your service can be, something that you do one time and has a higher price tag, or it is something that you don't even need to spend time to do, instead of something that takes a long time. And then just make sure that's valuable and yeah. So
yeah, all that for sure. Agreed. Specifically what you said about less time, higher price tag. Of course, like well, what would I say? I would say just go with me on this for a second, because this can sound kind of like calloused or too calculated. Or and I've heard this concept repeated a couple times from business people that I follow. There's this guy named Chris Do who does the business of design, and from Chandler. Both very successful people at what they do, and we'll get into this another part, but not as like fraudulent people. Like people are willing to pay almost anything to these people because they can actually solve their problems. All right, what Chandler says, two things guaranteed to work in business. Be helpful, solve problems. All right. Or wait, be helpful, make offers. My bad. Be helpful, make offers. If you know how to solve a problem, hey, I can help you solve that. This is how long it's going to take. Can you pay this much for it? But more to your point, Yannick, like we actually, if we're working on these ecological dynamics and using as much leverage as possible and trying to give ourselves room to think as creatives and people and stuff, we actually want to do the least amount of work for the most money. And like there's something inside of us, especially in me, because I'm the complete like I want to like bleed for people. All right. I do that. I do that a lot. And it was I could do it in a counterproductive way. So when I heard that the first time, I was like, well, that's bullshit because you're taking advantage of people. But I don't know if you build a certain, I guess, if you really know how to solve each other's problems, doing the least amount you can for the most money is going to give you room, like breathing room and thinking time to continue to be effective for people instead of being so strung out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's one more thing that I like to touch on that you said. It's also not just important that the thing you're offering is valuable, but also that people know you can solve their problem. Like trust, like they
Right.
see, oh yeah, this would be great but if only if it's working, right?
Yes.
So, and I think that's where this idea of showing your results and using your clients as your billboards is a great idea.
Hey, you just used some Chandler terminology right there, Yannick. I like it. I like it. The billboard. That's what we're going to talk about after the four noble questions. Okay, so getting into just these two documents here, it is 11:23. We started 11. We'll make sure we keep this to an hour, guys, and have a little time to discuss. Please, if anything comes up as I'm going through these four questions, please feel free. But you can look in the comments there, the four noble questions. So Chandler asked us four questions. I forget if this was it was somewhere in the first four, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I'd written, this is my task list from last year. Like I just immediately wrote them down because it's so weird. Like when Chandler started to describe this stuff and Vervaeke in concert with Vervaeke, like I could just feel that it was going to work. I don't know how exactly to describe that, but I think it probably has something to do with invariance. And this is what I mean. If you explore a lot of variation and try a lot of different things, what you start to understand is that, wait a minute, there's commonalities between these things. And there's some things that are just like the most effective things at the bottom of those. You know what I mean? So an invariant is a principle that never changes. Like in jujitsu, in order to off balance somebody, and if we line up across from each other and we're trying to knock each other over or take each other down, you have to connect. You can't just like push them with air. You actually have to connect. So one invariant in jujitsu is connection. And I can feel that same thing with what Chandler is describing. Oh, these are the invariant principles he's described. He has 10 years in business doing high ticket offer sales things. He crashed out. His whole life collapsed. He told me once, Nick, literally at one point in my life, all I knew was that the ground was there for me. Like I would come home and collapse on the ground, and I knew at least the ground's there. So he's experienced a bunch of variety and he's completely collapsed. And then when he built things back up, he rebuilt that foundation and all the bullshit was stripped away. It sounds like I'm describing the life of a religious prophet or something, but here's the 4 questions he asked. What's the smallest change for the biggest impact? What's the smallest change you could do today for the biggest impact? And I knew in my situation, it was I had 5 other designers working with me for this Herf Jones franchise. And I was like, I need to make them like me. They need a template for everything. They need to be able to do everything without asking me. And of course, I have to like uh, get paid for that, but so that people don't steal the designers and stuff. But it worked. All right. All of a sudden, I wasn't the bottleneck for everything. A lot of unnecessary suffering was alleviated. So like I literally was like frantically, like I cracked down for like a month. This was during the apprenticeship. And I was like, all right, so what I need to do is template everything, make sure they never have to ask me for anything, and they are free autonomous agents. I'm not a bottleneck or doing or like being always held up and people always pissed off at me because I literally can't answer that amount of emails in the amount of time I need to. You know what I mean? So that was the first thing. I put mustard seed with it because if you haven't have the faith of a mustard seed, and you see like the one thing you could do today that sets you up better tomorrow, that's worth it. It worked for me. What's one problem? Here's question number 2. What's one problem or one question, if solved, would make a world of difference for me? And that was I opened a tax savings account. I knew I started calculating my taxes more carefully because that was of course another. It's kind of embarrassing to admit, but as the problem scaled up, taxes became a problem too. Whoa, I actually like I made a bunch more money, but like there are actually I didn't even though I saved for my taxes, I didn't do it accurately enough. I thought I was doing it accurate enough, but I didn't write it down in a spreadsheet or whatever. And they don't care. They actually do not give a fuck if you can pay your taxes back. You just have to figure out how to do it. So there was that was number 2. Number 3, the thing I want is impossible unless, and you can just imagine that as like Chandler talks about the buts. He says write out, I guess, the goals this is a more in-depth thing we could go into, but maybe the best way to frame question number 3 is what's the biggest he's so dumb. But what's the biggest but that is in your life that prevents you from getting the thing? If well-being is defined as getting what you want and keeping it, like if that's his definition of well-being from some psychologists, then what's the biggest thing in your life that's preventing you from doing that? And if you focus on that, then you're gonna just get the biggest return, you know?
So there could be an objection, but it could also be an actually valid block on the road, right?
What do you mean? Explain that a little bit more, Yannick.
Because when we say but, it like I think of an objection like, oh, but I can't do it because this and that. But it could also be something that like is actually hindering me in a very real way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You guide this to like more of a real thing that needs to be resolved or an objection.
Yeah, that's a good point. It could be maybe a self-imposed, like, I don't know it could be a self-limiting thing. Or it can be like, well, a loved one is actually really sick, and this makes my life much more complicated. Both of those are valid and something to think through. And thank you for that. And the last one is if you're okay, last question. If there's like a lazier version of you in the future, what could you do today that would like help that person? And it's kind of funny to think about it that way because like my immediate reaction was like, no, I gotta stay on the grind. I'm never gonna be like that. But the way I was framing the situation as like what's going to get me out of this is going to be grinding harder. That was making the problem worse. Instead of because it's like a totally different system. You know what I mean? Instead of working on your business, you're working in it, and you're stuck in the same thing that that got you in that problem in the first place. So it's totally the ecological approach to things is totally a reframing of the problem. Instead of thinking, I need to learn more information, break things down more technically, it says, no, actually, you need to understand what's the most effective things to do. What are the pieces of the puzzle that are the most effective to put together? And those things are suddenly going to generate on their own, like a garden. Like if you put the soil in and you have rain and some sunshine, you're going to come out and say, whoa, the zucchini, I looked earlier today. I have more zucchini today. That's awesome. You know? And yes, that can be a hard thing to understand. Like the Buddha, all of the Buddha's analogies are self-entrapment analogies. Okay. And he says there's one he uses is about the monkey and pitch on a stick. I think pitch is like sap or something, where the monkey grabs the stick, and in order to try to free itself, it grabs the stick with its other hand, and then it grabs it with its foot. You see what I'm saying? And it's just like it hasn't reframed the problem. Oh, I'm making it worse by trying to fix it this way, or I need to ask for help. Instead of that, it's like, I'm going to fix this myself. I'm going to fix it. And then he dies. Kind of dark, but that's kind of how addiction works too. Think about it. So, guys, any thoughts on the 4 noble questions there? That's something we can start with easy. That's the very first thing I started with. I want to give you guys something practical there. And I come back to them. And just, see if there's any other low-hanging fruits there to be gleaned. So, if not, I'll have us look at the 8 stages of the client journey, guys, and we'll get a little bit into that. Admittedly, this is one that I'm still like very much working through, okay, in real time. I'm not an expert on these things. I've just found the deeper I go into sort of these principles, the more it helps my life. So that's why I'm willing to fool with them, you know? So like Yannick had mentioned, actually, creating those billboards. If you look in Julio, maybe you're not able to see this, but it's in the comments. We have a little diagram of the 8 stages of the client journey. You might be familiar with that. And this works off of the ecological approach as well. So actually, the most effective thing that we can do for our business is number 8. We make people billboards, meaning we literally help them so fully and enormously and like transformatively that they can't help but tell people about how we have helped them. Like that is isn't that just such like a wholesome and like hopeful vision of business? Like actually what you want to do is just like make people's lives so good that they say, hey, Blake made my dog just like an angel. It was the worst dog ever. And now like it can sit, it can, it's not barking at the neighbors. I can actually take it for a walk, all that. So even if all you guys get, in all seriousness, if all we get from this 8 stages is like, I've got to help people and I've got to make them offers so that they're actually willing to work with me and that I can make a living. That is a great thing to take from these 8 stages. Any thought about that, guys, about reframing business as like wanting to help people as much as possible? Does anything come up for you on that?
Yeah, for sure. Like I'm looking at the thing right now, even though on the phone it's kind of hard, but I really like your drawings and your design and everything. And it's just so clear because it's so little information. And I really like what you said underneath also, referrals and spotlights. And by
Yeah.
referrals, I'm hearing I'm hearing testimonials. I'm hearing what you just said right now, that maybe billboard clients would tell other people who then buy from you the same offer. But what is Spotlight again?
Oh, a spotlight. I think this was like a practical suggestion actually. Like if you did on your Instagram, Julio, had someone, you know how we see those EMP videos sometimes where a person that came to the retreat talks about how helpful it was to them and how cool it was. That's it. That's just an example of someone that's a billboard. They want to do that. I'm sure they weren't paid for that. They just want to tell people because what's in it for them is that they get to have other people participate in this community and it makes their life more wholesome, you know? So it was just kind of a practical suggestion of of how a billboard and you could have this reciprocal thing. Um, yeah,
Right, I get it. Yeah, yeah. So referrals would be more my clients telling other people, you should definitely go there. And like Spotlight is actually the testimonial of like, I was at Return to the Source. It was amazing. And this is what it's done for me and stuff like that. Okay, I get it. Yeah, yeah.
cool, cool.
I'm not sure if you ever heard about, I think the technical term would be upselling. Maybe it's wrong and I'm going to a weird direction now, but because I'm not so into the business world, but um, I remember also us talking with Chandler about that the same client which is already buying from you any kind of offer, you can kind of upgrade the offer, to help them even more. And
You're barely coming through, Julio. I think what you're saying
maybe
though is that
with this
Julio, Earth to Julio. You're barely coming through, my man. I like what you're I did decipher a lot of that though.
He was talking about upselling and keeping your client and upgrading it.
let's
What I
do
heard.
an example so it's easier. I do the movement class only once a week, right? And maybe some person can say, "Oh, I would
He'll come back, guys. He'll come back.
I think
Yeah,
that in reference to that, that was more. I think that would be more feasible for like lower ticket type of programs or offerings, right? If we were doing higher ticket stuff, maybe that would be more encapsulating, um, or like a all intensive like retreat, right? Higher ticket
yep,
retreat versus a workshop, and you can keep the clients upselling with different types of workshops.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's great. I do think that in my experience living here in Idaho now, referrals can come in like super quickly. In California, it would take the span of a couple of years, or I don't know. It's in just in the
Really?
dog training realm. Yeah, we would train someone's dog, and then 2 or 3 years later, a friend would say, "Oh wow, I saw this dog. It was so awesome." Whereas here in Idaho, someone's getting results the first week. They're telling their friends before the program is even completed. So I'm living off of referrals right now, and it's really opened up a new perspective of me on the referral process.
Wow, like yeah, no, that would. That's exactly what you want, right? Do you find that the referral clients, I'm curious, are they easier to work with? Like, do you think there's kind of a self-vetting thing there a little bit if clients refer other clients or um
I would say on average, if I was just to take a general, census of it, I think yes, they are easier to work with because they have some type of feedback of already from a current client, from what we're talking about already, or the homework that they're getting, or the results that they're getting. They're more willing to do the work, listen to what we say, or want the same results, kind of like keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like, well, I got referred by this person. I need to make sure my dog is just as good as this person, kind of thing.
Yeah. That is actually that dynamic to speak to that. That is the dynamic that Chandler talks about. Like, um, he says even that he's willing if he is working with a client he really likes and that client refers someone else, he'll even do like free calls with them, or very discounted stuff free. He'll talk to them a lot longer without getting money because he's just seen over and over again that most of the time if the client is cool that he's working with and they refer someone else, he's going to get a good client. I thought that was an interesting take. I'd never heard that before. Um, yeah.
I actually started implementing that with the dog training. If someone gives us three referrals for clients, then they can continue their group class sessions for longer. And then I did that so that they can meet up at group class. You brought your friend, now you can do it with your friend. So in workshops or something, that would be cool because then the new person is more likely to come knowing that their friend is also attending.
Bro.
Yeah.
No, that's a great idea, Blake. It's same in jujitsu. It's like all the people that like get the bug a little bit, all they want is for their friends to do jujitsu. So we need to implement some sort of. It's very organic right now. People bring in like 3 or 4 people, but it would be nice to like reward that in some more specific capacity. So that's great.
I did want to open up a question to you guys. Well, we were talking. I was thinking about it during the 4 questions, but you and Yannick both said something. And Nick, you first said it with business and martial arts,
Mhm.
and how there's that similarities. I just wanted to pose the thought process of in a like jujitsu session or in a martial arts session in general. You're required to be fully present. You can't be thinking about anything else. There's someone in front of you and you have to be present. Whereas I feel like in business, we can get so flooded with future anxieties and what else needs to get done in checklists and processes and systems. So,
Yep.
what would it look like if we were to take that same type of presence and apply it to business?
Ooh, ooh, that's good. I actually think Chandler's the guy for that, bro.
Mm.
And for instance, what is the proper way to frame this? I don't know. He's just always asking. He does a lot of like work with the entrepreneur specifically to be self-reflective and for them to be grounded themselves. The Grounded Founder, that's the name of his company. To for better decision making. Like imagine if you were just like if you had tools for when stressful scenarios inevitably come up in business in live rounds when someone's trying to get you. Like imagine if you just have some mental and a checklist of tools you could go through. He has the crystal ball. He talks about the crystal ball is if you're making negative predictions. All right. He's like, I ask rooms across the country. No one has had a crystal ball yet. Everybody thinks something's going to go bad, like they have perfect predictive power, but no one's had one. It's goofy, but it does like the analogy. What did Rafe say about developing skills? Like analogies are like give you like 60% of the information versus one technical piece of advice. So using that crystal ball to stop all the negative predictions. And then he asks a very simple question, Blake, to keep people like present. Chandler will often say things like that feeling you have about being incompetent and like or that you're a piece of shit or that you mess this up all the time or you're ashamed. Do those feelings do they make you more or less effective?
less.
Right, of course. And that question was just very clarifying for me. Now when I'm like I'm prone to introspection and so sort of this self-defeating narrative. I'm sure we all have that. But shoot, him asking that question, I'm like, well, I can't even say I did do something wrong. Say I really messed up. I can't even like get in problem solving mode because I'm like so inside of myself, you know? What's the everything about ecological dynamics is externalized cues. Okay, so something I was telling my group class, my jujitsu class before we went to tournament in the beginning of the year was um fear is like a blade. Okay? If you turn that blade in on yourself, oh man, I'm so worried about what he's gonna do to me, or what if he does this, or he has if you turn that blade in and on yourself, you're gonna cut yourself. But if you use that fear, if you turn it out against the opponent, it's a weapon. Your senses are heightened. You're literally physically stronger and faster. So like that negative voice when business situations come up, that's the same thing. It's that fear. Turn it out against them. Think about, okay, let me use all of that power that normally paralyzes me and figure out what I need to do in the situation versus um spiraling in, you know. Uh so I guess to answer your question more specifically, Blake, Chandler has we all have analogies like that will help us. The crystal ball, or just he says often like when you're having a sales conversation, find your sit bones, sit in your chair and like take a breath. Before I answer a call now that I know is going to be stressful, I literally go, I answer, this is Nick. You know, just general stuff like that start to attune you to the situation. How do I solve this versus worried about what it's going to do to me? Because that makes you less effective anyway, you know. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys have these.
Love that knife analogy. That's so good.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. Uh, Morpheus, what's he doing? He's starting to believe, right? All right. So, on these 8 other stages, let me just touch on some of these real quick, guys. We really touched on the billboard again. If you don't take anything else away, be helpful, make offers, make people just so like help people so much that they're literally guilted into giving you lots of money. Okay. Um, but other things we can do to help with the experience, the general experience, because we're just literally not going to be aware of all the dynamics of what clients expect and all that. So for instance, I'll give you a clear example. Recently on my Substack, I had started to get some traction. I was rising in philosophy on Substack. I think I was the highest I got was top 16. Out of all the Substacks related to philosophy, I was number 16. And I'd seen that it was getting some traction. And so I just went on my personal Facebook, the most ghetto use of business platform ever. I went on my personal Facebook and posted a clip of, hey guys, I'm getting some traction. If you want to help me, I guess do more of what I love to do and give that to more people, like become either a free subscriber or a paid subscriber. I'll give away some free PDFs of stuff I've written that I haven't given away before. And people bought into it. I think I got 8 new paid subscribers. It's just $8 a month. It's nothing crazy, but I got 8 more paid subscribers and like a bigger handful of free subscribers. And for the paid subscribers, I gave away a physical copy of a book. For the free subscribers, I gave away just digital copies. And what if we look at number 3, buyer's remorse. In order to ensure that like I wanted people to know I wasn't just using them, and I actually was grateful for them helping me with something that, was unorthodox, that a blog, right, about philosophy and things like that. Maybe I was surprised at the amount of support, but I wanted to reinforce that. So if people were supposed to get a physical book, I told them, hey, here's when it's going to be here, and let me send you a digital in the meantime so you can read before your physical copy gets there. There are just certain things you can do. Chandler does the same thing with me. I've done a few coaching sessions with him. And he has this thing called the bandwidth blueprint, and we discussed it a little bit in like a regular coaching session, just an hour coaching session. And then afterwards, he was like, "Hey Nick, um, let me give you the course for free as well. I think it's like a $47 course or something like that for a 60-minute video. But it's a system. It's kind of like the stuff I've drawn here. It's something you can keep coming back to." And even though I didn't ask him for that, he gave it to me anyway. And that makes it like, I don't know, that just leaves a good taste in my mouth. You know what I mean? It's like, no, Nick, these principles work. I want to help you. You've paid for a larger thing for an hour of coaching, which costs more. Hey, I know this is really going to help you. Take this too. And so there's things like all that to say is there's things like that we can do in the client journey that reinforce the relationship. And it all comes back to number 8, guys. The better experience you give people on all 7 of these other things, on number 8, the more they're going to be feel like you cared and thought about their experience and weren't just instrumentally manipulating them to make your success. You really wanted to help them, and then they'll tell more people. And those are the word of mouth is literally the best. The more of that you get, the more likely it kind of vets them, and you get the same sort of clients, and like what Blake's doing. My gosh, talking about ecological dynamics, someone that you trained a dog with, Blake, and then they bring a friend to train their dog, and then they're training the dog together. I mean, the social component of it, it's great. It's great. So, I know that's a lot. I just touched on buyer's remorse number 3 there, guys. Is there anything else that stands out to you on the 8 stages there that might be worth discussing or just talking about?
I just wanted to let you know, Nick, that this is so valuable. The way you talk, it's like so clear, and I love this format of like somebody of us like kind of working through some material and presenting it to us, and then you do also the question thing where you kind of like lead us in. You're amazing. Thanks so much. I appreciate you a lot, and what we're doing here is so valuable. I would have loved to like pop in from the start at like my computer at home and like make notes, but already now I can feel me going back to all that material, and like also I feel the practical bits and the examples that you give or the others give help me the most to understand the theory behind it and to actually work on it, because I think most of that stuff is also trial and error, right? Like you have to implement these things to see their effect in your situation. The way you do it might be different than the way I do it, the way Mark's doing it, and so on and so forth. So this is a recording, right? So we can check the recording after, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, already looking forward for the next time. Unfortunately, I have to leave you guys, but lots of love, and really hope to get together with you soon, really soon, hopefully.
Hell yeah, Julio. I appreciate you, bro. We'll talk soon, okay?
Likewise. Thanks so much. Take care.
Okay. Just a quick note on what Julio said. No, he's right. It's going to work differently in our context. That's why I relate it to the martial arts too, is because we can have this conceptual art understanding, but the fun part is rolling. We get in there and things work, things don't, and hopefully you're just not too hard on yourself during that process, and you use some of those grounding tools that we have with it, embodiment, and this all comes back to that EMP hope, that the things we do in movement practices and play, they transfer to us being better people and being able to help people. So we're going to get reps. I think it was Marcus Aurelius that said, life is more like wrestling than it is dancing. Now, Marcus Aurelius was a pretty like stern, stoic character, so the fighter probably needs to learn to dance and the dancer needs to learn to fight. But it's worth thinking about because you're going to have that opponent process where like people are going to say no, you're going to have to say no, and you got to kind of not take yourself too seriously and try to weather that. So we're approaching maybe what time's this run to, guys? 12:30?
I'm not too I'm not too sure if it's 12 or 12:30, which would be 9 or 9:30 my time.
Okay.
But I did want to just mention to you guys, I checked in with my local college. I cannot offer classes through the college, but I can market through the college. So because I don't have any teaching credentials, then besides the EMP stuff we've done, they wouldn't let me do any physical education type of classes for the college, but I can use the facilities to market. And then it's connected to a park, so I can do it at the park. I also checked with the Salvation Army, but the closest that they would be hiring for would be a dance instructor, and they're looking for more actual jazz and tap dancing and that type of thing. So again, they're less willing to let me market through them, but that's my update, and I'm still trying to find some locations. So maybe I can have everybody out when everything gets up and running.
That's awesome, bro. Yeah, so they was the thinking with the college, because I feel like I've heard that before, that you can offer what's that called? No, it's not an extracurricular. It's a class that is yeah, I almost thought anybody could offer a college class if they had a curriculum and they went through an application process. Is that what you were thinking, Blake?
That's what I was thinking, yeah. But you know what? This is a Lewis and Clark, Idaho State College type of thing. So maybe if I looked more at the community college level, if that is more accessible.
You should think about, yeah, you should pitch it to a couple different of them. You might get different responses. You never know.
Yeah. So that was my update, my business update on things.
Cool.
Nick, I have a little experiment.
Please.
So one of the difficulties I have in marketing is finding the right hub. You know what that means? Where people who are interested in dog training would look at a dog magazine or something. So the magazine would be the hub. So the place where people look who are interested in what you offer. And I'm thinking that if you role play being Chandler, what do you think he would say to me?
That takes the pressure off me, Mark. I really appreciate that, actually.
I think because you're so immersed right now, maybe
Yeah.
you can channel your inner Chandler channel.
Oh God, nobody show him this. But yes, I'd say probably what he'd say is, this is a very Chandlerian move right here, but you ever hear him say in our talks about, like, instead of trying to get the new clients, take better care of the clients you have? Have you heard that?
Yeah. The moment you said it, I was like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. It's a coherent system. It is impressive that you can come back to his thoughts. Vervaeke has this idea of like internalizing the sage. Okay, so people in ancient Greece, they'd build this thing called an inner citadel, and they'd imagine like putting different items in the room, and so that when they had any problem, they'd talk to Socrates. Like they'd have like a 6-hour conversation with their teacher, even though he was dead. This is weird stuff. Anyway, that gets a little creepy. However, Um, I think that's coherent advice, Mark. That if you look at that 8 stages, the thing that's intriguing to me, and I still haven't figured this out perfectly, I find myself slipping all the time, but everything is built on like kind of what you're talking about is the knowledge, right? Like how do I share with the right group that might be unrelated to me how to come to my services? Um, and like even there's an entrepreneur group close to me. It's called the Quicker Innovation Hub. It's connected to my college. And they spend a lot of time actually on marketing and like number one in this process. But like since being introduced to Chandler and his thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, we might have this all backwards. Like the whole point is to help someone thoroughly enough. I'll give you an example. Okay. I've been doing a couple of some free classes with these guys from my church. I wouldn't even call it that. I don't tell them I'm running a class or anything like that for them. We just go do movement at the church in the morning. You might have seen some Instagram posts or stuff like that. We do kettlebell. We do the 4 quadrants: body to itself, body to environment, body to body, body to object, and we rotate through those. Anyway, um, even though they're not like it's not like a paying relationship, the relationship has deepened enough over time that like the amount of value that it's added to my life was beyond business. You know what I'm saying? Like in terms of certain things fell apart in my life, they show up on my doorstep. Or someone needs a job. People in the group have lost jobs. People found them better paying jobs. People started businesses. There's a coffee shop going into the bottom of the church. People have opened up and become less ideologically rigid. All this. I can't believe it sometimes. Like when we look back on it, it was like we ran the experiment of how do we transform like as fully as possible. And then they did like 2 of those paid subscribers I got were the guys from the church. I didn't ask them to do that. They just were like, "Oh, Nick's got a thing going. Things are going good in our life. Let's like push him." And they did. I would never ask someone to do that just because I will write regardless. But does that answer your question, Mark? Like this idea of the transformation and seeing how do I create even better relationships with the people that I'm with. Is that intriguing?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
There's been a, yeah, I think said it before, but since I implemented more roughhousing or play fighting in my classes and have a tiny circle um, at the end where people share or I pose a question, the sense of community and the closeness between the participants and us and myself and each other, it's just been increasing. And now that I finally started my weekly EMP class, right away, 4 or 5 of the people who would come to the Monday or Thursday class, they already joined. They just want more.
Wow. Wow.
Yes, it's really great.
That seems like yeah, that seems like the move, Mark. I mean, business and like becoming better people is the long game. We
Mm.
often like because things are seldom ever perfect in our lives, we always like we focus on I need to get more of something, but Vervaeke talks about the having mode versus the being mode. We have all of the connections in the world online. We have all of them, but we're not in as many deep relationships as we'd like to be. Isn't that ironic? So if we try to get more, it might not even do the thing we're hoping to do. No. Um, Yannick, what about you? What's coming up for you and what we're discussing, man?
Um, uh, I know it's just one thing that keeps staying in my mind is just the nature of different businesses, and what type of business is easier to live off referrals from, what type of business is less investment, more higher return, and so on. Yeah, I was kind of my head was a little bit in the clouds there, and I was kind of looking for answers. But I think it's about like referral businesses, the businesses that easily live off referrals are, I think, relationship based, often, trust based. So I gotta go here also very soon. But yeah, it's been great chatting again, and I haven't been seeing you guys for a little while. And yeah, it would be great if we could have these meetings like once a month. And is there anything else that's on the agenda?
I don't think so. We need to be looking forward to that. Give some thought to that, guys.
Yeah, we need to find someone for the next session or a topic.
Right.
I
But
just got back on it. Please
wait a
go.
minute.
Go
It's
ahead.
I just dropped the link in the chat for a Dropbox. That's Chandler's course, the Grounded founder.
Oh wow.
He gave me that, and of course, I'm sure he wouldn't mind if you have it too.
Cool.
So it's this
Cool.
entire video course,
Awesome.
the Grounded founder. I think it's mostly what he did with us in the calls. So maybe it's the same, but maybe it's more concise. But yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. I know that lots of these concepts seem like some of his foundational thinking. So that's awesome, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you.
I gotta be taken off, everybody, but great seeing you. I'll see you next month, and unless I see you sooner.
All right, bro.
All right.
Bye.
Do you have the link to that document that we made last time? Because I don't have it anymore.
Oh, from Akshay.
Yeah.
What did he do? Did he do group notes or something?
Yeah, and a Google, what's it called? Not form, document, Google Doc.
And
Line one, I don't know anywhere where I saved it.
I'll have to look. I know for sure that like, do you ever use the Otter note taker thing, Mark, that Rafe set us up on in the beginning?
All right, guys, I gotta go.
Hey, I see you, Yannick. It was fun.
Yeah.
And
Appreciate
see you next time.
Thanks, Bob.
your time.